Charles, how are you? You're overseas. Welcome to 2025. Is this our first? It is our first show in 2025. Happy New Year, Charles. How are you?
Happy New Year to you, Jason, and I'm greeting you from the my study, basically, in the apartment. It's not quite set up totally. I don't have the TV and the sound system in sync yet, but that should happen shortly. And I've always been a fan of books since really before, since I was very young. And here I'm surrounded by many of my books. You can't actually see the full room or the full collection because the stuff that I don't want to get damaged by light is in closets.
Wow.
But the design team here has done just an amazing job. I cannot speak highly enough of Wolfgang Limited, which is the Wolfgang Living, I should say, which is a husband and wife team with a staff. They're only 30 years old, both of them. And it's just incredible the quality of the work that they did and continue to do here.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are going to look at this, Charles, and they're going to have a hard time believing that you're not on a green screen. It looks so good right there. That room, the lighting, everything about it is super nice. The Wolfgang interior design people definitely know what they're doing over there. I think they could use your apartment as maybe put it into their website here. It's a very nice website. Obviously, these people are premium design experts.
Yeah, plus they're fun and refreshing. I mean, I've done several other projects back in the States, and it's really, frankly, annoying to deal with even the best quality contractor because they always have excuses why they ordered something and it didn't come in exactly right, and they have to redo this or redo that, and there's always a problem that you have to solve for them. Whereas these people, they sat down with me in one meeting and they asked me, what do you want to do with the apartment? What kind of a feel do you want? And I said, well, there's a wonderful bar in the Eastern and Oriental Hotel called the Farquhar's Bar, and I want this whole apartment to have the feel of the Eastern and Oriental Hotel, which is the oldest and nicest hotel here. It's brought to you by the same people who did subsequently Raffles in Singapore, so it's a super high-end place. And we just discussed the apartment is really too big for one person, so I cut out bedrooms, 2 bedrooms to make this place,
Wow.
for example. And they've just done a spectacular job. And my brother is here. I'm hoping he's going to buy the apartment next door, and so we might have a pair of these on the floor.
It's all so fancy, Charles. You know, people wanted to remind us last time that Raffles in Singapore is the birthplace of the Singapore sling. So
Exactly.
I don't know if that impresses you, but Charles, you know, it's important for us to discuss the fact that 00 stupid is added again. I don't know if you knew this, but 007, that's actually Joe Biden's IQ, Charles.
If at its peak.
Being
No, I mean
generous.
this.
Yeah.
What they're doing. Actually, as I was thinking about preparing for the show, I was thinking a little bit about the degree to which awards now are handed out like cotton candy to undeserving people, and it makes me wonder how many of these Ivy League graduates who are swanning around governments and NGOs and mainstream media, how many of them were just given honor grades even though they didn't deserve them, given prizes even though they didn't deserve them? I think about Jake Sullivan, who I know a little bit about what Yale used to be like. I mean, Jake won almost every conceivable award that you can win for being the best student at Yale and Harvard Law, or wherever we went to law school, and I think he was a Rhodes Scholar. Um, and the guy has no moral compass. He has been a disaster. He was Hillary Clinton's top aide when she destroyed the State Department and destroyed America's remaining foreign credibility with her and Obama's regime change operation. And now he's national insecurity advisor. He had the gall the days before October 7th, when the atrocious Gaza episode, days before that, he bragged about how the Biden administration and basically he had that the Middle East had never been safer. I mean, and this guy still has a job. And here's Biden daring to give the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which until he started doing this was the highest honor you can give to a civilian. He gave one to George Soros, who is persona non grata in his own country, in Hungary. He was kicked out of Russia. He should be kicked out of the United States and his assets impounded and seized. 40% of the violent crime in America, according to one article I was just reading, is in districts brought to you by district attorneys that Soros and his crooked foundations installed. And on the other hand, you give it to Hillary Clinton, who still has not answered and may never answer for her crimes at Benghazi. We still don't understand yet what was going on there. We still have morons in the mainstream press, which is basically virtually everybody in the mainstream press, trying to argue that what Hillary did with her secret toilet bowl servers and devices was just standard practice, that all people in high power in government used personal email. That's not the issue. Hillary is the only person who has ever dared to conduct all of her official business on unsecure servers and unvetted personal devices. She's the only person who ever did that. When Bannon and Navarro defied subpoenas, they went to prison. Hillary defied subpoenas. They had requested specifically those emails, and she caused, or her team caused, the emails, the devices to be destroyed. No one's ever had the gall to do that. And now this mushfuck, gives out the Presidential Medal, dares to give that out to Hillary Clinton. I mean, there should be no mercy given to Joe Biden and Obama and Hillary and the various and sundry people who have made a mockery of the Constitution and have pumped and dumped more than $10 trillion of debt on the backs of our children and grandchildren that may never ever be repaid. These people have caused folks around the world to validly question whether an American government official's word means anything. And we need to remember that treaties are nice and regulations are nice and protocols are nice, but when you lose trust in what somebody will do outside the parameters of a treaty, you're done. And it could be that the dollar under Trump, that Soros's final act would be to try to destroy the dollar as he did to the British pound. I mean, so that these two people would get this medal alongside somebody else, some NGO cook, chef guy, was seen, that Ryan Ruth guy apparently visited with another guy who got the Presidential Medal of Freedom. So grown-ups are clearly not in charge. Nobody's in charge of Biden, nobody decent. There's no system of checks and balances in the Biden administration, and there needs to be a fierce reckoning. Lawfare proponents need to be rounded up, and not the way they do it, lawfully prosecuted with a vengeance, so that people who dare to have bar licenses, who dare to go to law school, who dare to spread mayhem and confusion, going after their political opponents using public resources unlawfully, as Jack Smith did, as the January 6th committee did, as many other people are doing to you, and to other people. These people, Norm Eisen, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, people who should know better, who have been living off the public tit forever, are in some cases centimillionaires, following lives of public service. These people need to be made examples of. I did get finally Bill's latest screed, which is actually a rehash of much of what he's already written, and it's total fabrication. There's an acknowledgement section that goes on and on and on, thanking all the people who helped him with this piece of garbage, where, it's fine to talk about this initiative and that initiative. It would be nice if there was actually a legal entity that was validly registered and operating anywhere in the world, but there isn't. And this guy, who knows how much money he made from this Nazi book publisher, formerly Nazi-controlled book publisher, but to go ahead and publish yet another screed, and there's no pushback from the fake yappers, from the Anderson Cooper, from CBS, NBC, ABC. There's nobody. If Donald Trump had put this book out, every single word would be torn to shreds the way this book needs to be destroyed. I mean, he has many, many vignettes where he brags about things that he could not have done, that he's not connected in any of the required public filings to anything called the Clinton Foundation until 2009. Yet he brags about all the stuff he did beginning in 2001. My foundation did this. My foundation did that. He's not listed as an officer or trustee, and his quote foundation is reimbursing him for flying around private, for staying at fancy hotels, for having people work on his staff. They're paid by the foundation, even though they're doing personal work for him. He thanks his butler, for all the work. You got to be kidding me. I mean, how many people who've never worked in the private sector have enough money to have a butler?
Yeah.
And he has a chief of staff, and his wife has a chief of staff, and his daughter has a chief of staff, and they all have offices in expensive locations. They're all flying around, and what are they doing?
Hey, what do they do? That's the question. They have all these offices and servants, and they're just like sitting around doing nothing, getting medals.
It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
We're laughing, Charles, but it's really not funny. I mean, the rule of law is out the window. Criminals are literally running the country. When you mention Soros destroying the dollar, that's absolutely not out of the question. In fact, it seems probable. These people are psychopathic.
Yeah, and the nerve, for example, of the medal is given to George Soros, who's probably, I don't know, he's on the Joe Biden Jello program, so he didn't have the time to accept the nation's highest honor, so he sends one of his shrimpy little sons in, Alex Soros, who's apparently taken over the mantle, and Alex runs a crooked philanthropy, a series of them called Open. Is it Open Society or something like that, or Open something or other?
Open Societies.
And these are nothing other than illegal means to funnel money to people who are, quote, advancing the Soros agenda. And we need to remember, actually, short sellers, these are people who make money when the value of securities go down. Mm-hmm. That's a very important function. So I'm not negative on short sellers. I'm negative on crooked short sellers. So crooked short sellers, if you bought off and you put, let's say, Zelensky in power, just hypothetically speaking, with a mission of first destroying Ukraine and second destroying Western Europe, and you're a short seller, what you do is you don't do things that are easy to track. You short the debt of the country, and you may short the debt if it's available, if you can do it mechanically. You short the debt of companies who are based in the country that's going to blow up.
Meaning
and you can make a tremendous
betting that they can't pay it.
Yeah, most human beings, as they age, they want assets whose value will go up, right? That's what you're hoping for. You buy a stock and you hope for $1,000 and you hope that it goes to 10,000 over 20 years or something like that. But there's a very important function I learned a lot about when I was exposing General Electric. When you find a company that is improperly valued in the market, in your view, based on your own research, there are ways to bet that the value of the underlying securities go down. And these ways are, without getting into gory detail, these ways are turbocharged. You can make a lot of money if you're right, betting that, let's say, the debt of Siemens, to pick a company, which I think is another corrupt version of GE. If you felt that the value of Siemens equity and debt was going to go down, you can make a tremendous amount of money. And if you're crooked and you go the extra step of bribing people in Germany who might regulate Siemens, and you install the leadership by siphoning money to, let's say, the leading member of the coalition government, you have very important knowledge, which you shouldn't be trading upon, but what's very difficult to police. And so there is, as a matter of fact, there is no international tax regulator. There is no international securities regulator. And I think in our lifetimes, and perhaps for centuries to come, there won't be. And so that creates a big opportunity for people who want to pay off the Bill Clintons and pay off the Hillary Clintons and pay off the Barack Obamas and pay off the Joe Bidens. And that's what we see with Joe Biden. I mean, the big message, the big story that nobody wants to cover in mainstream media because they're all dependent on the Chinese market. The big story is that under Biden's, quote, presidency, the Chinese have gained enormous influence over the U.S. With the balloons, now the drones, paying off Hunter. I mean, the clear message is sent, I think, by the Biden administration that American politicians can be bought and sold for chump change. That's a clear message. I mean, this picture, which the National Archivist sat on until Hunter was pardoned, shows, shit-eating, corrupt people getting together, full of the knowledge that Joe Biden can be bought, and that it's worthwhile paying off his crack-addled idiot son chump change to get whatever favors you want out of the Clinton, Obama, and Bush crooks who are still in the deep state, still in government, still in a position to reward people who pay off the political families. That is the clear message. And until there is the kind of, I don't know, I wouldn't want to call it a national reconciliation as they had in South Africa, until you go through what happens periodically in England during their civil war after 1649, before 1660-ish, there were what were called compounding committees. And people who were suspicious, who had suspicious amounts of wealth, had to go before an empowered body and explain all of their assets, all of their liabilities, all of their income, all of their expenses, all of their possessions. How did they come by these? And if you failed to make a full declaration, you were severely punished. Now, I'm not saying we could do that in the United States, but anybody who has spent, quote, a lifetime of public service and today has more than one nice home, in my view, is more than likely to have taken a succession of bribes. And unfortunately, during the Constitution period, you didn't have two-income families. So you didn't have a Jake Sullivan, now his wife's in the House of Representatives, or a Bill and Hillary, or Barack and Michelle. You didn't have that. So the Constitution has really not contemplated the type of corruption that is possible in the arising of these dynastic political families in both parties. So there's not a mechanism to aggressively go after it in Congress, as you see. I mean, Jim Jordan has a nice fiery press conference, and what happens? Bupkis, nothing. We have all this. Peter Schweitzer does multiple books exposing the corruption in the mainstream press, and Bill Clinton in his latest book characterizes Schweitzer as a right-wing kook. And a mainstream press loves it. It give Bill another $10 million for a stupid-ass book. There has to be, and I think there is. People talk about it, a vibe shift, where with the attempted coronation of Hee-Haw, and now she can't even recite the Pledge of Allegiance, and this is the vice president who's going to preside, in theory, tomorrow over the certification of the election results. She doesn't even know the Pledge of Allegiance, but let's make her president in a process where she has no primaries, has no votes, takes $2 billion and burns it in 107 days. I mean, I don't think Nero, if you adjusted for, if you could adjust for money value differences over that long time, I don't think Nero burned $2 billion in 107 days in a campaign of nothing. She literally got up there and said, I'm in favor of moving forward, not backwards. Okay, we're all marching together in time. That's really novel. Let's give you another $2 billion for that. I mean, it's really beyond a tragic joke at this point. And I do hope that scores get settled here. I mean, I do hope that Mike Johnson does his job. I hope that John Thune is not already corrupted in the Senate. I do note that Chuck Schumer was on one of the ridiculous shows, Sunday shows, and Kristen Welker, I think at NBC, played a clip of Schumer claiming that it's right-wing propaganda that Joe Biden, his mental acuity is on the decline. And instead of being embarrassed, Schumer reportedly doubled down. I mean, it's indefensible. Joe Biden should be nowhere. The second that special counsel or whatever he was said that Joe Biden's mental condition was too fragile to go through a trial, I mean, he should have been, everyone in the line of succession who failed to call for him to go through a 25th Amendment process, every one of those people should never work in politics again and should never have a pension. And beyond that, any damage we may suffer as a result of pretending that Joe Biden was in control, any monetary damage should be repaid by this group of clowns. I mean, it's ridiculous that they would put up with this.
It really is.
Not that I have any views.
You're going through all this sort of like chapter and verse, as you would say. It's a good and comprehensive wrap-up. You know, we really didn't do like a year-end wrap-up per se. I was very occupied with getting this mobile studio and a mobile array together, and just everybody was traveling and everything. But this is a good sort of time to do it, I think, with tomorrow being January 6th, and we're just 2 weeks away from the new administration. You know, when I was thinking about today's poster, I named it No Time to Drill because, of course, Joe Biden has put in place these bans on certain energy exploration and exploitation plans that Donald Trump has spoken about that would surely supercharge the economy. So, I mean, Joe Biden is literally, you know, throwing a gas can in the room as he leaves out the door to burn the whole place down. He's a total asshole. This is the most insane behavior we've ever seen from a person who's been president. Honestly, it makes Jimmy Carter look like a genius to me.
Well, I would say that, you know, the good news is that any action done by executive action or executive order can be undone by Trump. And they're going to claim that you can't. I know there's this continental shelf issue on drilling. They're going to claim that there's a specific provision in some ancient law that gives the president the authority. Okay, fine. You could try that bullshit when Merrick Garland is attorney general, but we're going to put in some Rough Riders into the Department of Justice, into these various departments, and we'll see. And unlike Biden's Justice Department, that the most insidious thing they can do is not really aggressively prosecuting people who shouldn't be prosecuted. I would argue the most insidious thing they can do is to not go after, criminal conspiracies, which are ongoing. I would regard I would say in the IRS and the nonprofit tax exempt department, in the IRS itself. We have DEA agents selling drugs that they confiscate. I mean, we have lawlessness at the border, up and down the food chain, and it's going to take Trump and his team a few days to get shit done, a few weeks even. But they need to really go into 24/7 mode and look very carefully at the suspicious people who are Obama holdovers in the Biden administration. So people like Lisa Monaco, who is running day-to-day the Department of Justice, her whole tenure in government needs to be re-examined. When she was sitting on top in the Justice Department of the branch that was regulating the Foreign Agents Registration Act. She had that specific position, and she failed to tag the Clinton Foundation. She failed to tag many other foundations. We've failed to have a true inquiry into what happened with USAID and how Hillary Clinton, as Secretary of State, could say, you know, these used to be separate organizations. Forget all that. We're going to make sure we're not going to fill the job of Inspector General overseeing the State Department, and we're going to fold USAID into the State Department. So that gave her and Bill, while he was, quote, running the quote, Clinton Foundation and its various arms, that gave them the ability to take vast sums of money directly and indirectly through various pockets and see that money bleed into contractors to foundations, companies that were involved with foundations, probably billions of dollars of grift in the Obama years, continuing, frankly, in the Trump period, because Trump got hobbled in the beginning. Sessions was a disaster. I can't even say the guy's name. Barr, another disaster. And who knows how many other disasters are on the staffs. You see, the way government quote works. You can focus on the high level people, and you can even focus on John Kennedy, who's hilarious, um, the senator from Louisiana, who gives great sound bites on TV. But sound bites are one thing. Another thing is the actual text of the laws that get passed and the regulations that get passed, and then the decision-making process of what priorities ascend to the top of the food chain and what get buried and what gets classified and what doesn't get classified. Those type of decisions are all made by career fuckwads who, aspire to have vast wealth, even though they're public servants. Those are the people that need to be, we have arterial sclerosis or whatever the phrase is in the bureaucracy. They need to be flushed out and through by aggressive means. And we need to get back to the business, a serious business of getting our fiscal house in order internally, controlling our borders, revamping our school system so we stop churning out mush heads, purple-haired mush heads with nose rings, and instead aspire for excellence in every aspect of education. We should be minting at every level of the food chain outstanding graduates, people who dominate the STEM competitions around the world, people who prodigies in music, wonderful people who expose us to new beauty and art. Every aspect of our educational system should be the envy of the world. Instead, we have a corrupt knucklehead, Randy Weingarten, who's a proven liar, still in charge and highly paid of the most important union that shouldn't exist, frankly. We don't need unions in public service. They're already overpaid. So, how does a union help the taxpayer? Unions help these people who in theory can't be fired now, who are terrible people. I mean, Randy Weingarten still today tries to argue that she was not responsible for delaying the return to school over COVID. That is utter bullshit. Parents were pounding the table and saying, we need our children in school. And Randy Weingarten, behind the scenes, was saying, no, that the young children coming back to school pose a threat to the teachers. So to protect the teachers from getting COVID, we need to keep the children at home. She has no good credentials as far as I'm concerned. She is an evil fuckwad, as are all of these. The cost of education is enormously high because you have a gigantic bureaucracy. In New York City,
let me just slow you down because you're on a huge roll here, and we're out of time here on our introduction, and we've got a lot of stuff to talk about in the First Amendment Forum. So we're going to transition over to the sponsor exclusive channels. People are going to be able to watch on odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, and subscribestar.com, and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. We haven't even gotten to Juan Merchan and the whole sentencing of Trump. There's so much corruption to get to, so I hope that people will stay with us. We will be right back in less than 5 minutes. Don't go anywhere. Charles obviously has got a lot